is another story as well. So I thought, because most of you are fairly young and maybe are going through what I was going through, maybe that would be better for you, the one showing you my journey to Christ from total unbelief. Or if you don't want that, I can show you the work we're doing in Sierra Leone. The one concerning my journey to Christ does have work in Sierra Leone. So in the spirit of democracy, how many of you would want me to show you the journey from atheism to Christ? Raise your hand.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I think that's the majority, right? Okay. Democracy. Look, we are living in an age where we are being determined. The narrative of the present age has been determined for you. You are not going to change it. It's going to be very difficult for us to change the constant narrative of Western civilization as it is today. By Western civilization, I mean America, Europe, Australia, Canada, and so forth. That's Western civilization. The way we think, the way you are being taught at school to think this is good and this is bad, right, has been determined already. It is not something that is negotiable at the moment. And who has determined it for us? Well, the church and the beliefs of the church in the broad secular world have been defeated. We have lost the ideological battle. We are on the fringes of society. For example, if you contradict the narrative of society today, you will be called radical, you will be called homophobic, you will be called whatever. You have to be careful how you speak today, because the narrative has been accepted at school, at university. If you believe, for example, that we come from God and we are not descendant of apes, and you try to get an MD degree at Sydney University, you will not pass. If you believe that God created man and woman, and you say that to your professors at the university at biology, you're not going to pass. You have to accept evolution. So what has happened is we are living in two worlds. We're living in two ideological worlds. By ideological, we mean two conceptual worlds. The one conceptual world is the church, the Bible, and what we believe in. Then when you open that door and you go out there, is a total other intellectual reality, another philosophical reality that does not accept what we believe in this room. Are we together? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? Is somebody here not understanding? Put your hand up. All right. So, where does this come from? Why did this happen? In the Byzantine period, everybody believed in God. There was no question about that. Everybody believed that Jesus is a savior, came into the world, saved the world from sins, rose from the dead, and opened the door to heaven, and we can enter the kingdom of heaven. No problem. That's the narrative of Byzantium. That is the narrative of the Middle Ages. That is the narrative up to about the so-called Renaissance period. Up to about 1500, the world is Christian. It is the dominant narrative of the world, of Western civilization, of the Byzantine period and of Western periods, okay? Up to 1453, let's say, okay? Now, this narrative changes. How does it change? It becomes secular. God is gradually pushed aside until eventually, by the time of the French Revolution, 1788, the revolution is not only against the king, Louis XVI, it is also against faith, the church, the Catholic Church, and the rise of the concept of reason, rationality. Reason, logic, now becomes the new God. And the church and its faith is being pushed aside. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? You look blank. Is anybody losing me? Good. Okay. So, now, today, we are living in the result of that age. We are living in the end product of 300, 400 years of pushing God aside. of not letting him to be the center of the narrative, okay? The rise of science, the rise of logic, the rise of reason, which by the way comes from ancient Greece. It's a rediscovery of Aristotle, a rediscovery of the ancient Greek philosophers who invented logic. So now, there are probably about 4 thinkers that have shaped the world you live in, and my world, and His Eminence as well, His Grace as well. There are 4 thinkers. I could name you 10 others, but the 4 dominant thinkers that are the ones that are shaping the world you're living in, the way you think, the way out there, not here, but out there. Okay, who are they? Adam Smith. In 1786, he wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. And what does he say in The Wealth of Nations? Capitalism. The best way to run a country, the best way to run an economic system is to have free labor, free market. The government does not intervene in the affairs of economics. And so the businessman, the rich man, the poor man have the marketplace in which to determine their future. That's the opposite of socialism, okay? So capitalism, which is the dominant economic philosophy of the United States and a lot of European countries, has been determined already 200 years ago by Adam Smith. Okay? So the economic world we're living in, capitalism, has been determined already for you. Okay? The second thinker that has determined the way you and I think today, or at least the world thinks today. Okay? Capitalism is one. Number 2 is Karl Marx. Karl Marx is the opposite of capitalism. Karl Marx believes that in any society, the rich exploit the poor. The rich have the capital, the money, and the rich are able to employ the poor, the proletariat, the working class, in order to exploit them to produce a product which they will make profit at the expense of the labor of the working class. That's Karl Marx, the class struggle. From Karl Marx comes the idea that a society must take care of the underprivileged. A society has to take care of the minorities, okay? So when you push that, it's not only economics with Marx. Now, today, we have what is known as neo-Marxism, which is any minority group must be defended. E.g., the gay community. You have to defend them because they're a minority and they were persecuted. The lesbian community, it has to be defended. This is neo-Marxism. Okay? It has to be defended because any minority group must have the right to be defended against the majority and not to be exploited. The transgender community must be defended because they are a minority and the community has an obligation to take care of the minority. The Islamic community must be defended because they're a minority in an overall so-called Christian society, and their rights must be defended. Therefore, if you don't, you are Islamophobic. Why? Because you're contradicting the narrative, the neo-Marxist narrative, that any minority group has to be defended. So why don't they defend Christianity? Because Christianity is associated, according to the neo-Marxist analysis, with the exploitation of native people. It is to be identified with the exploitation of the American slaves. It was the Christians who took the slaves from Africa and put them to America. It is the Christians who were involved in the exploitation of Africa, and blah, blah, blah. So the Christians are not to be defended because of their past, and because they're predominantly white, and white is not good now, okay? Because we are the majority. Where do we get all that from? Neo-Marxism. Are we together? Is anybody here falling asleep already? This guy here, I think. Right, are they keeping up? They're keeping up, okay. So, we have two thinkers that I don't think you've even heard of, who have determined the way this society works, okay? There's a third thinker, Sigmund Freud, Freudianism. Freud determined that the way the mind works begins at a very, very young age. The person you are today is what happened to you between the ages of, say, 1 to 6. 1 to 6, okay? The person you are now is exactly that child with more experience. And there's much more to be said about Freud, but just the most basic thing about Freud is this, that most of your thoughts, most of your mind is subconscious. Most of your ideas are subconscious. You don't even know you've got them, okay? The way you think right now, the way you react is the conscious mind. But the conscious mind is a tiny bit of the iceberg. It's just a tiny top bit. Most of your experience and personality derives from your subconscious. The thoughts and the experiences you've had that you're not even aware of. For example, when you react in a strange way, why did I do that? That's your subconscious. Or the dreams you have that are strange dreams, that's your subconscious coming out, that you can't stop it. Within your subconscious are all the primitive instincts that you have, all the desires that you have, but you cannot exercise because society has made it impossible for you to make them possible. Otherwise you'll go to jail. Otherwise there will be punishment. So for Freud, we are a bunch of frustrated people, a whole population of frustration and anger, and a society oppresses you not to express those feelings, okay? That's where we get the idea that now I'm free to say what I want to say, and my mind is able to say what I feel inside. That's all Freudianism. Okay, so already you can see three people that are affecting the way society is thinking. Okay, and so without trying to bore you too much, the last person that has a tremendous influence on our society is a guy called Nietzsche. What Nietzsche said is God is dead. Okay, he put the final nail in Christianity as being the dominant narrative of society. For Nietzsche, it is the individual that has to assert himself and not turning to the idea of God. Okay, because if you turn to the idea of God, it's like you're weak, you can't take care of yourself, and you need this idea of a God that will take care of you. Okay, but for Nietzsche that is weakness, and therefore the human being must ascribe to his own will and to his own strength and become self-made. And God is dead. That's Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, Nietzsche, and then Marx, and then Freud, and then Adam Smith, I could mention 100 others, but they are the four dominant thinkers that have shaped the world outside that door. Not inside here, but outside that door. Therefore, if you grow up outside of the church, you will think that way. Okay? If you grow within society, nothing to do with the church, then you will obviously believe in the dominant narrative. And this is the dominant narrative as I have explained it to you. Why am I saying this? Because that's what happened to me. And maybe it's happening to you. Okay? You're not sure about the church. You don't know whether the church is right or wrong. You got some issues. Exactly. I just thought the church was out of fashion, a remnant of a past age that has now gone, and now we are living in a scientific age. And I forgot to mention also Charles Darwin, who is also a very dominant thinker, particularly with the concept of evolution. So, a lot of the young Greeks that are not coming to church today are not coming to church not for no other reason except that they have been convinced by the dominant narrative of society that there is no God. They have been convinced by the dominant narrative of our times that God is dead and that we are really on our own and we have to do the best we can. There is no kingdom of heaven, and all that is just the propaganda of the church to fool the people. Okay? Right. Now, how do we overcome that? How is it possible to overcome? It's really impossible, almost impossible, if you believe all that. And I believed all that. But something did happen to change me. So what I'm going to do now is going to ask, hopefully we can get this thing going, because this thing right now, maybe it's not going to work, Your Grace. Let's see what happens. All right, who's going to take care of this? We're going to switch off the lights. We're going to get you all to turn around. All right, turn around. Okay, all right. Now, who's going to play this? Hello? Yeah, let's see what we can do. There's no sound, right? Now, can you put it louder? Stop. Just stop it for a minute. Stop it for a minute.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll just turn off.